reconvenes the second virtual summit today on the pandemic and marks 1 million deaths in the United States. Maybe grandma.
8 months after the president used the first summit to announce an ambitious pledge to donate 1.2 billion vaccine doses to the world, the urgency of the U.S. and other nations to respond has waned. Although more infection variants are rising and billions throughout the world remain unprotected, the momentum for vaccinations and treatments has faded. The White House says Biden will address the opening of the virtual summit with pre-recorded comments and will make the case that addressing COVID-19 must remain an international priority. I have in Washington.
Moscow says there's a growing threat of the fighting in Ukraine leading to a direct conflict between Russia and NATO. And now Ukraine is preparing to put a captured Russian soldier on trial for war crimes. The agent's microphone.
Ukraine's top prosecutor said the office has charged the 21-year-old Russian sergeant in the killing of an unarmed 62-year-old civilian in February, just 4 days into the war. Meantime, the war rages on. In the besieged southern port city Mariupol, an advisor to the mayor said Wednesday all evacuation routes out of the city have been blocked by Russian forces. I like Ross.
North Korea has imposed a nationwide lockdown to control a COVID outbreak, the first one in technology. A Chinese passenger jet.
Okay, thank you.
Injuring more than 30 people.
All right.
This is AP News.
Okay, Reverend.
Democrats' effort to protect abortion rights has failed with an almost party line vote. The A's are 49, the A's are 51, which means the motion is not agreed to. So I am angry.
Pastor. Okay, I need you to bring the radio down, hon. Oh, okay, great. Hi, Pastor, how are you? Okay, I that's what I understand. Good. Huh? I said, hold on one moment, okay? Just trying to get the last of this together. Okay, so here's that. And, okay. All right. How you doing, Darius, Pastor? How are you? Oh, bless her heart. And I know she cannot wait to get back to school. Is that hilarious? My father told me when I got to college that would become home, and boy, he didn't tell a lie. My father told me, hold on one moment. Dad told me that when I went away to college, it would become home. And I was like, oh, I couldn't even believe that. And it did. And I went back to, I went to summer school. I was going to stay all summer. But the only time I cried with college was when, when I went back to summer school. I left, I'd been home for like a week, and I got homesick. And after that, I was never homesick again. Ever. Ever. College, just going away to college really does change you. It does. Someone told me that would happen, and it did. But hold on, let me say hello to Samantha and Andre and Linda and Dave. How you doing? Gary, how are you? Good morning. Daryl and D-Ray and Jewel. Sending you all much love. Everybody, please like and share the show. And thank you for going over to the YouTube channel, because that is where Facebook said that they want us to be, at the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Well, they own and control the space, but that's what they said. So if you would, please go over there. Okay, Reverend, we are just about up. Okay, listen for the feedback, okay, sweetie?
Yep.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
We are live in 10.
All right.
Santita Jackson Show.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It's Thursday already, May 12th, 2022. I'm Santita Jackson, coming to you from the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, WCPT 820 here in Chicago. We were Air America, but now we are the Heartland Signal. Please meet us over on social media and AM 950 radio, my brothers and sisters to the north. Hey, Matt, how you doing this morning? And Chad and company in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and all around the country and all around the world. I want you to meet me on my Santita Jackson and Friends Facebook page. That is my official Facebook page. Everybody, would you join me there, please? Santita Jackson and Friends. Anything else, there's a Santita Jackson page, but it's a landing page. So I can't accept any more friends. I've got more than 1,000 requests, but they top out at 5,000. I can't do anymore. They will, and in fact, they're flushing people out, and it just breaks my heart to see it happen. So if you would, please go to the Santita Jackson and Friends page, and we're streaming live there, but we're also streaming live at YouTube at the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Please go there. That's where you need to go. Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. What are we going to be talking about today at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278? We're going to be talking about what everybody's talking about, reproductive rights for women. Many people said, look, Susan Collins, the senator from Maine, you knew that soon-to-be justices designees, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Barrett, were not telling the truth about their positions on Roe v. Wade. So should she now push for their impeachment? Because they didn't tell the truth. Now, mind you, they parsed their words. They are lawyers now, and judges at that. They parsed their words. So technically, they did not say that they were not supportive of Roe v. Wade. They just kept saying it was settled law. Yes, it was settled law. It was settled law. But they knew the intention. Should they be called out now for that? Because they were not telling the truth. And we're going to talk with a doctor, a Black female doctor she's an OB-GYN, obstetrician gynecologist, who's been practicing for 25 years. Now she's on the administrative side. She's got concerns about the ending of Roe v. Wade. She said this will disproportionately impact poor women, Black women, brown women. This will hurt us. And she's got some stories. Can't wait to hear from her. And of course, Dr. Max Wolf, who wants to weigh in on reproductive rights as well, and inflation. I can't watch this corporate-driven news much more without getting really, really upset, because they tell us about inflation, and then they make it sound like it's your fault. And then they say, oh, but people are buying tickets, they're going on vacation. I'm like, with what? Who's going on vacation? Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. Want to hear your voices today on the Santita Jackson Show. In Chicago, it feels like summer. 83 degrees, partly cloudy. Minneapolis, St. Paul, wow, 90 degrees you're going to hit today. Partly cloudy. The Dow closed down 326 points yesterday. The NASDAQ closed down 373 points. The S&P 500 closed down 65 points. In the NBA playoffs, how exciting. Milwaukee leads their series against the Celtics 3-2. And last night, they won 110-103. Golden State leads their series 3-2. The Grizzlies 134. It was a blowout, not even close. The Warriors 95. Miami leads their series 3-2, and they'll tonight be playing the 76ers. Major League Baseball, the Yankees will be meeting the White Sox here in Chicago. The Cubs beat the Padres 7-5. They'll be facing off. They're going to have the night off, but guess what? The Astros and the Twins game has been suspended, and the later meeting will be determined at another time. The NHL playoffs, the race for the Stanley Cup, the World Championship. Well, Calgary leads their series 3-2. The Flames were triumphant over the Stars 3-1 yesterday. The Panthers 5-3 over the Capitals. Pittsburgh leads their series 3-2, and Rangers 5. The Penguins 3. Everybody, they're calling it beyond shameful. Joe Manchin joined the Senate GOP once more to block abortion rights. 51-49 on advancing the Women's Health Protection Act. It was anticipated that Manchin would join the GOP, but he confirmed his position with the vote. What do you think about that? What do you think about that? What do you think about that? This was an opportunity for the U.S. Senate to codify into law a woman's reproductive rights. That did not happen. 51-49 along party lines, with the Democrats joining the Republicans. Amid record pump prices, oil giants are enjoying sky-high profits. $41 billion in the first quarter, everybody. Amid these rising gas prices and fossil fuel profits, big oil is trying to squeeze even more cash out of consumers, according to a watchdog group, Accountable U.S. Unfortunately for consumers, the report reads, good news for big oil's bottom line never seems to be good news for them. The report is entitled, High Prices Make Big Oil Profits Soar. How are you dealing with these sky-high prices at the pump? Do they need to be? How is it that they're making so much money? There's going to be no more money to make. You won't be able to give it to them. You won't be able to pay. Wow. Finland's president and prime minister have announced their support for joining NATO, moving the Nordic nation, which shares an 800-mile border with Russia, one step closer to membership of the U.S.-led military alliance. Since the end of World War II, Finland has been militarily non-aligned and neutral to avoid provoking Russia. Wow. The war in Ukraine, however, has changed their calculation. What do you think about that, everybody? Call me at 773-763-9278. 773-763-9278. U.S. inflation took a breather last month for the first time since August. Prices have still increased, though. Are you feeling any of the love? I don't think that you are. No one is. Florida has, black voters in Florida got a win. A state judge on Wednesday, now mind you, someone who was appointed by Governor DeSantis, he invalidated part of Florida's new congressional map drawn by Governor DeSantis, approved last month by the Republican-controlled legislature, siding with plaintiffs who accused the GOP of violating the state constitution through racial gerrymandering. Judge Lane Smith of the Second Circuit Court said that, quote, the enacted map is unconstitutional because it diminishes African Americans' ability to elect candidates of their choice. Those are some of the headlines on the Santita Jackson Show. Call me at 773-763-9278. You might have heard something else, and I want to hear from you today on the Santita Jackson Show. In the meantime, we've got Lisa Cook, who will be Lisa Cook. She will be the first Black woman on the Board of Governors. That has never happened before. The Federal Reserve Board now will have a Black woman by the name of Lisa Cook. Teaches at Michigan State University, one of the nation's top economists. Congratulations to her. Pastor Darius Brooks, how are you doing? We need some good news today. Indeed, you pastor the Great Grace Central Church, and before we get into this, I want you to let people know how they can get to your church, because you have been feeding people, and you feed people throughout the week.
Your real food this time around, but what you talking about right now?
I heard that.
Yeah, from 5 to 7 every Tuesday, we feed between 300 to 600 families. They were around the corner last week as well. Even while we was in Houston getting my daughter ready, we have a system that's Santita that's second to none. We have conveyor belts at the church. Well, we are literally and figuratively feeding people, giving them $180, $200 worth of food when they leave our church. Every Tuesday from 5 to 7, Grace Central Church, 10216 South Kitchener Street, Westchester, Illinois. And on Wednesdays from 12 till 2, seniors, if you don't want to come out late, that is a good time we have set aside as well. So we do 2 days a week where we feed the community. So from every Wednesday, from noon till 2, we feed the seniors in the Ross Tuesday and Wednesday at Grace Central Church. And it's not just church service. We have service feeding the community.
Amen to that. Amen to that. What is the good news? That is good news.
And it's so true. Santita, I'm excited. People keep asking me, what is it that's in your water or what you're drinking? Santita, Ecclesiastes 7 and 8 says, the end of a matter is better than the beginning. The end of the matter is better than the beginning. And a patient spirit is better than a proud one. Santita, listen to me. Do not be quickly provoked in your spirit, for anger settles in the lap of a fool. Do not say, why were the old days better than these days? Santita, this is Ecclesiastes 7 and 8. Often share with Grace Central, if you think education is expensive, you should try ignorance. If I had to use for a thought, Santita, this morning, truth will confirm me or expose me. Truth will confirm me or expose me. Santita, you got a truth that will get you up in the morning to do this show, or you have a truth that you have a show, but you don't want to get up and go get it. I'll never forget the words of your father when you and I was talking about your show in Detroit, and Reverend Jackson, and it blessed me and changed my life too. I was just happy to be blessed to be with you and your father. I'm blessed to have you guys in my life. I'm telling you. He said, do you want the opportunity or not? Santita, that thing towed me up in that car. So I had to use if I had to use a thought today, truth will confirm me or expose me. Santita, daily we must put a subject in our lives or a challenge there. Because whatever we put there is a word that is very clear. The most important weapon we can ever have or use against anything in this walk is the honor of God and His Word, which is a promise to get us through any and everything. We all have something to be thankful for, but oh my God, it may feel like when we're up against a wall or in between a rock and a hard place or in traumatic times in our lives, what often seems good in the midst of it all is when we always consider God. A roof over our head, food to eat, clothes, hot water, close friends, family, someone who supports us, someone who will get into our experiences with us, able to pay some bills. Even if these things are tight, the fact that you are able to listen to this radio show today to get some kind of inspiration in the crazy world says a lot about itself. But this doesn't stop the living, Santita. Living are the things and the thoughts we do in order to move forward. I didn't say exist. I said living. There's a difference in existing and living. And the more often than not, we have to deal with living. And so we're clear life is what you create. Living is how you get there. Life is what you create. Living is how you get there. All right? I got to get on out of here. No matter what, God's word has an opportunity for everyone who is a believer to be free from pain, suffering, and a reality and purpose field that only God's word has designed for us. I got to go. Get it here. Listen to this. And any worse than this, the most important weapon you can ever have is not having a weapon to fight. When living comes at you, you got to have something that you can say out loud, I can do this. God's word and how you look at it for life and it more abundantly tells you how to live out loud. God really does have a plan and a purpose for everyone, not a pass-up opportunity, but He has a plan and a purpose, Santita, for all of us. And I often tell Grace Central as I close, everything God does in Darius' life is not just for Darius. It's for somebody else too. Santita, everything He does in your life, it ain't just for Santita. It's for me too. It's for so many people who are listening to your amazing program, whether they agree to it or not. God always tells us you don't have to use it, but it's here. You don't have to believe it, but it's true. And you don't have to use it, but it works. Because He's going to make sure, He says, before my words fail, heaven and my mama going to pass away. Oops, what you talking about? True. Will confirm me or expose me.
Amen. Amen. Amen, everybody. The Grace Central Church in Westchester, Illinois. Get on over there. Get on over there. You'll be blessed on Sunday, but you can be blessed throughout the week. Go to Grace Central Church. Follow them on social media. I'm sending you much love, Pastor. In fact, you and the Tommies will be at the Rainbow Push Coalition International Conference June 18th through the 22nd. Morning Stars. Please go to rainbowpush.org and get registered. Please, even if you're not going to be in town, I want you to join us virtually, but you don't want to miss Pastor. Has this great psalmist, this great man of God. You do not want to miss him with the Tommies. I can't wait. I cannot wait. I cannot wait. We love you. June 18th through the 22nd. Everybody, join us at the Rainbow Push International Conference. I love you, Pastor Darius Brooks. Do it down in I love you. I love you. Let me get on to Dr. Shanita Knighton. Dr. Knighton, infection preventionist, professor at Case Western Reserve University. She's a research scholar there as well, and she's a registered nurse. And she's with us every day, every day. You know, well, I have a question for you. As we've been looking at this drug crisis, we've been in crisis with illicit drugs for a long time. But we've been looking at the opioid crisis. And we've been looking at, of course, fentanyl and all of that. But there's something that happened during the pandemic. You know, people were shut in. It's been a very, very painful experience. And mentally, it challenged all of us, and spiritually, in so many ways. And drug overdoses in the United States were deadlier than ever in 2021, according to the CDC. Nearly 108,000 people died of drug overdoses last year. And about 2/3 of those deaths involved fentanyl or some other opioid. What are opioids? You know, because now when I go to the store, you know, if I want to get, certain medicines that I used to be able to just reach and grab and go, they're locked away. And the pharmacist said, well, it's because, when you combine this, that, and the other, you can have an issue. Talk to me about this drug crisis with fentanyl, with opioids. Where did this come from?
I mean, I was going to say, I think the biggest thing is for pain relief.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the biggest way to, think about it. A lot of these medicines are made in a form to be able to elicit a response to take away the pain. And unfortunately, a lot of the medicines that someone would use I'm not going to say over the counter, but prescription-wise from a doctor is also something that you can find on the street in a different form. So whether we're looking at heroin or whether we're looking at morphine in the hospital, some of these medicines, excuse my voice this morning, contain the same ingredients and would have the same addictive properties. When we look at cough syrup, which may not necessarily give the same response as morphine or an opioid, rather, you still have some sort of euphoric effect that does alter the mental status of someone. Same thing with Sudafed. And I don't want to get into drug names here, and I'm being honest, Santita, trying to do this in a way of where, not giving names.
Yes.
But some of the medicines essentially are not supposed to be allowed. So if you went to go get certain drugs, you're only able to get a certain quantity of them because of their side effects. And so when we look at what happened during the pandemic, having these drugs, people were trying to numb other pains, which, again, I think probably, let's say, someone in mental health would be able to speak to that. Mm-hmm. Also, we have to think about the fact that when the pandemic hit, for individuals that were in, let's say, heroin recovery, the methadone clinics or dioxone clinic, which is where they would go to seek treatment that would help to decrease their desire to want heroin, were closed. providers, counselors, different mechanisms for which people would have had access was not available. So a lot of individuals that may have been near doing well ended up falling off of their regimen. And I know I was mentioning, let's say, Sudafed. I know that there's different knockoff brands. But think about what ketamine does. The whole thing about like increasing like the blood pressure and the heart rate. Or amphetamine, like what it does. Like Sudafed is essentially doing the same exact thing. So,
But you know what? Hold on. You're bringing up something. You're bringing up something, as you know, as you talk about these drugs and the effects. I mean, this goes to something that you have been talking about since I met you, since you started coming on this show. How important it is for us to follow the directions. You know how we think. You know, they say you take this many aspirin and we'll double it. You know, and from what I'm getting from you is that can be very dangerous when you don't follow the directions on these over-the-counter drugs. Yes, I've got about 2 minutes.
that's the truth, but the thing is where some of them, there are interactions in between. So, for example, you may take one and the issue may say it's going to resolve your nausea and vomiting, but it resolves your nausea and vomiting, but then it might make you, let's say, feel sleepy. So then you might say, okay, well, I'm going to take some tea in order for me to be able to get a little bit of energy. But then the medicine, okay, you take the tea, but the tea might tell you that if you have some sort of condition, then maybe you shouldn't be taking it as a combination. And I'm just kind of throwing that out there. But it's really more so like drug interactions with a drug interaction. So you might take a drug interaction that might treat nausea and vomiting, but it might give you diarrhea. Then the next thing you know, you're taking a diarrhea med to try to offset that as a side effect from the previous med. And then when you're taking that medication, that's then got another set of problems that you got to deal with, such as dry mouth. So then the medicine that you're taking for dry mouth leads to something else. So it sounds crazy, but a lot of times like you actually have to follow the yellow brick road almost in regards to like what are you consuming and will this have an interaction with this interaction. And you'll find that sometimes it's just best to do nothing or figure out what is some sort of like natural way that maybe someone, you know, that you love that has remedies are able to get rid of the symptoms.
Everybody, you got to think. You got to think, and we have to pay attention. We're going to continue to talk about this opioid crisis because it is a real crisis, and it is having real effects. It's very interesting to see how the opioid crisis is being handled because now we're seeing the corporations who foisted these opioids upon these vulnerable communities. They're being sued. Plaintiffs are winning, and then they're losing upon appeal. There's just a lot going on. It's a lot going on. We have to be mindful of how the drug addicts who come out of this opioid crisis, they have been given compassion. Compassion we didn't give to people who were hooked on heroin or who were addicted to crack. Think about that, everybody. Think about that. Anyone who has a drug problem needs and deserves treatment, not imprisonment. Dr. Shanina Knight, we're sending you much love today. Let's talk about Susan Collins, the senator from Maine. What should happen? She has complained that Kavanaugh and Gorsuch misled her. Everyone knew that they did not support Roe v. Wade, even as they played word wordle at their hearings. People are now calling upon her since she's recognizing that they didn't tell the truth to her. Hey, call for their impeachment. What do you think about that? Should she call for their impeachment since they did not tell the truth? 773-763-9278. Back in just a minute. Dr. Knighton, I know I got to let you go, but I have to say hello to you and tell you I love you.
Hi, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, let me know what's going on with you, girl.
Okay, nice.
Okay, sweetie, my love to your family, okay? All right, everybody. What do you think should happen? I mean, what do you think should happen? If Gorsuch and Kavanaugh lied about Roe v. Wade, and it appears that they did, and you know, everyone knows what their what the end game was for them, and what the end game has been for people who wanted to overturn Roe v. Wade. You know, a lot of people have wanted to overturn Roe v. Wade. A lot of people have not. It was a very controversial decision, as I recalled when I was a little girl. It was a very controversial decision, and it still evokes a lot of emotion. It's very painful, very painful. So, but there was a very interesting story that I read from Verified that said, now hold on, because they did not say explicitly that they would, that they were against Roe v. Wade. They did a lot of dancing with their words, and they did. They really, really did. So they did not do that. So let me pull this stuff out. You know, this is what you all catch me doing first thing in the morning as stories evolve, because I download a lot of stuff. I do a lot of reading before I get, you know, the night before, the day before, the night before. But then I'm always looking for something else just before we get on the air, and I have to do some more reading and things like that before we come back on the air. So coming to you here. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, we are under a minute. I have Attorney Jones and Attorney Patillo. I'm still working on getting Attorney Hoffler.
Okay. I have
All right, we've got 30 seconds. And I will let you know as soon as I get a hold of Attorney Hoffler.
well, you know what? I will send you, because she might be moving. Let me send you Reverend Janette Wilson. I'll send this to you right now. You can pull her up.
Okay. We've got 10 seconds here.
Okay? So just let me know when she's up. And then we'll let, okay? We'll let, whew. Pivot.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. Santita Jackson and Friends, everybody. That is my Facebook page. Please go over there. We're streaming live. And on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, we are streaming live over there. Meet the Santita Jackson Morning Stars over there. I hope that you will meet us at the Rainbow Push Coalition International Conference, June 18th through the 22nd. June 18th through the 22nd. Please go to rainbowpush.org and get registered, everybody. Everyone is talking about reproductive rights and where this is going to go. Of course, there was a movement afoot in the Congress to codify these rights, to make a woman's right to give a woman a right to be able to terminate a pregnancy, or just to make a determination about what she wants to do about it. The attempt was made yesterday, but it was not. It was voted down in the U.S. Senate, 51-49. Joe Manchin, of course, joining the Republicans. What do you think about that? But more than that, Senator Susan Collins and Senator Lisa Murkowski, middle of the road Republicans, they were dependent upon to vote down now Justice Gorsuch, now Justice Barrett, now Justice Kavanaugh. They did not do that. And particularly when it comes to Gorsuch and Kavanaugh and Barrett too, they said, well, they feel confident that they are, just to paraphrase, they are going to hold on to Roe v. Wade. They won't overturn it. Indeed, there was a lot of word dancing done during the hearing. Indeed, they never explicitly said Kavanaugh, Gorsuch, and Barrett. They didn't say they would overturn Roe v. Wade. But you know what? Gorsuch put it this way. He was asked during his confirmation, he called Roe v. Wade a precedent of the U.S. Supreme Court. And he said it was reaffirmed in Casey in 1992 and in several other cases. So a good judge will consider it as a precedent of the U.S. Supreme Court, worthy as treatment of precedent like any other. He later said that Casey is settled law in the sense that it's a decision of the U.S. Supreme Court. But he kind of hedged his bets a bit. He said there are instances when a court may appropriately overrule precedent after considering a lot of factors. People let that go. So now the question is, okay, folks knew that these people wanted to overturn Roe v. Wade. They knew it. They knew that Barrett, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and the right-leaning justices on the court wanted to do that. So now people say, okay, now Susan Collins, you knew the deal too. You should call for their impeachment because they were misrepresented themselves during their confirmation hearings. I have got some brilliant legal minds to help me with this. Attorney Darrell Jones, Transformative Justice Coalition, their chair. Attorney Robert Patillo, Southeastern Regional Director for Rainbow Push, and host of his own show on WAOK every Sunday from 1 to 4. Let me start with you, Attorney Patillo. Your thoughts?
Well, I think that this is a textbook example of the difference between the Republicans and the Democrats. When Republicans have a goal, they will stick to it for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and think of the strategic nature of what needs to happen in order to get to the place they want to get to public policy-wise. This wasn't something that happened overnight. Going back to Mitch McConnell, stealing the seat from Merrick Garland, and one of those brazen thefts in Supreme Court history. The fact that Republicans decided that the only justices that they will be selecting were far right-wing justices who, regardless of what they said during the Senate hearings, were only put there for this one express reason. I think Democrats can learn from that instead of when you're in power playing patty cake with people, you have to look at it as almost a Machiavellian game in the current political system. I don't quite understand what Schumer was doing with the vote yesterday. They knew they did not have the votes in order to pass it. So when you're looking at someone like Senator Warnock, who's running in Georgia in a very closely divided state, a 50-50 state, why give the Republicans something else to run on, particularly in the Bible Belt in the Deep South, where they're already going to be attacking him severely? Why give him another vote on abortion that now he has to figure out how to defend down in Brunswick, Georgia, or Montezuma and Oglethorpe? I would say similarly to the race in Pennsylvania, which is going to be tight. Why make it such a tight issue when you don't really need to do so? I think Democrats need to start having strategic plans instead of continuing to simply act tactically when it comes to getting their agenda across the line. And also, this is one of those points where, because the white feminist movement has not been the best allies to the African American community and to the Latino community, this is very much seen as being a white woman's issue by many parts of the base. This is why it's taken over so much of the national conversation. But on my radio show, when we talked to a lot of our callers, African American men, Latinos, they said, well, where was Susan Sarandon at on voting rights? Where were these quote-unquote allied organizations at on criminal justice reform when we were out there in the streets by ourselves? So Democrats have to learn how to kind of circle the wagon and say that we're going to have agenda items for each little pocket of the big tent, that we're all supporting each other. Don't just come to black, to black folks or to Latinos or to other groups and say, well, now we have an issue, so we need everybody to get together and do something. No, you have to have a team if you're going to be teammates that are working together on each group's issues, and so that when something does pop up for you, that you have these people behind you because you put the work in to ensure that you solidify that base. So there are a lot of things that can be learned. I think they have to find out what exactly they're going to do going forward. Will this be a cornerstone issue in 2022, or will this be something that is kind of folded in to the party's platform?
Do you think, before I go to Attorney Jones, I want to know if we have Reverend Wilson up. Let me know, Matt. Do you think that she should push for the impeachment of these judges, these justices now, who, people are saying that they misrepresented themselves? Although, as you can hear from Gorsuch's approach, which mirrored Alito's approach, which mirrored, all of these right-wing justices have had the same approach to Roe when they've been when they have been in their confirmation hearings. It's settled law. I'm not going to touch it, but it's settled law. But Gorsuch went a step further. He said, no, we can overturn settled law. Should she pursue impeachment? Or do you think that's just a dead issue?
That's a dead issue, because you have to give justices the type of judicial independence needed to make dynamic decisions. If you go back to many of the civil rights cases in the 50s and 60s, a lot of those judges said that they would hold up segregation, and then when they got into the court, voted from the seminal civil rights cases, and you would have had to impeach them on that same line of logic. So I think they should start working on more realistic goals and trying to figure out what you need to do to get 60 votes in the Senate, rather than talking about things like packing the courts or impeaching justices, which we know really probably will not happen.
Attorney Darrell Jones, what are your thoughts?
Good morning, Santita. Yeah, it's interesting when you start talking about the Susan Collins debacle and dealing with Kavanaugh, Gorsuch, etc. Part of the issue that comes into play when we talk about the impeachment process for the Supreme Court justices. You got to remember, there's only been one Supreme Court justice ever impeached in our country's history, and in order to do the impeachment of a Supreme Court justice, the House of Representatives that would do the indictment, which you could probably get through with the current House of Representatives that we have, but then you're going to require 2/3 conviction of the Senate, and that's not going to happen. So, if you were to try to go the route of an impeachment of a Supreme Court justice right now, it would result in yet another failure. And one of the things that we've come to learn is that there are a number of failures when it comes to trying to take action. As you were just mentioning, the legislation that they were trying to pass in the Senate with regards to legislating abortion failed. Yet another failure. Voting rights failed. And so now you're going to try to do an impeachment. It's going to fail. There are too many failures that are lining up, and you need some victories. You need some positive action to show folks that the legislators can be effective. And that's part of the problem that I think that we're facing right now in this piece of the battle. So, when we're talking about, Susan Collins, and we're talking about what happened there in that situation, are we talking about a situation where, she was duped She really just didn't know that they were going to get on there and overturn.
Daryl, Attorney Jones, do you believe that Susan Collins, wait, come on. I mean, this is a seasoned politician. She is, come on. Do you think she and Murkowski, oh my gosh, they didn't tell us the truth. Do you really believe that?
Yeah, not for a moment. What she would have us believe is that there was some private conversation where, they assured her that there wouldn't be changes. Well, that means they lied to her in private, I guess, is what that would be. But I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it at all. The private conversations allows her to yield to the pressure that she was feeling from the conservative part of her party, and to go ahead and vote that way. So, no, I don't buy that they lied to her. I don't buy that she didn't know. I think they're precisely, and I think that Robert Patilla hit it right on the nose, right? Is that we know that the conservative side of the country has been pushing for the courts and control the Supreme Courts for decades. And it's been well entrenched and well planned, and now they got it. And the question is, how do we respond? And the big response, obviously, is going to be pushing out to get more representatives from our community that stand and represent the interests of our community. So we have judges that are appointed that will be more fair-minded and balanced.
Well, we have got Reverend Attorney Janette Wilson with us. Of course, she is senior advisor to Reverend Jesse Jackson at Rainbow Push, but she's also a minister, and she's been a lawyer, all of this. What do you make of this? What do you make of these senators, well, particularly Senator Collins, who had, they drew something on her on the sidewalk in front of her home and said, oh my gosh, I'm being harassed. Okay, you want nonviolent, but people have the right to express themselves. Just do it nonviolently, peaceably. But what do you make of all of this? And what do you make of this? I mean, do you think she believed? Do you think that she knew that they were misrepresenting themselves in this confirmation hearing?
No, I don't. I think that the Republican Party has strategically organized around certain issues, and they have been lockstep. Even the women who have voted against their own interests and the interests of the majority of the population, really, are women. We have consistently voted against our interests, those U.S. senators who've been elected. We should have targeted Susan Collins before. She's voted against every progressive issue that has been presented before her, Murkowski. And so as we look at this, Democratic Party has not dealt with a single focus on electing people who support a particular progressive agenda. When you have Democrats not able to vote as a Democrat, then who are they? Are they Republicans in disguise? Are they wearing sheep's clothing? And so I think women, as we organize around the nation marches, we must also organize these state legislative bodies, because what will happen if this decision comes down from the United States Supreme Court, Alito's draft opinion, if it becomes the majority opinion, then these red states, particularly across the 11 southern states, these state legislatures are going to vote some egregious legislation regarding a woman's right to choose, even a woman's right to decide to take contraceptives. I mean, this is going to be a major blow to women, and if they do this to women, they will do it in other areas. You've seen what happened in the voting rights. It goes back to the states' rights agenda, Santita, that you've been talking about for a while on this show. We are now retrenching to the states' rights agenda that led to some states years ago trying to secede from the Union. You now have these states, Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, these states, Florida, deciding we don't have to follow any uniform democratic principles. We will operate as individual nations, states' rights agenda. And so we have to stop this move. we have the power in this midterm election. We cannot sit on the sidelines and not focus on these legislative races. These state legislators are dangerous. In addition, we have to monitor our congressional representatives and our U.S. senators. We must monitor their votes and pressure them when they vote against the interests of the people. We're not doing that. We have home talks, bedroom talks, where we're not talking and pushing and pressuring publicly our legislators, U.S. senators.
Absolutely.
Most people don't even know who the two U.S. senators representing them are. We have to be real intentional about educating people, young women better stand up and understand what this means for them.
Well, you know what? I will say this, and not just them. We're seeing that, the Human Rights Campaign said that there are 17 bills that discriminate against the LGBTQ plus community that have been signed into law already in 10 states. There are 335 bills that would negatively impact that community that are on track. People have to understand this is why coalition politics, hold on one moment, this is why it matters so much. And we want everyone to come to the convention, the Rainbow Push Coalition Convention, June 18th to the 22nd. Before I go back to Robert Patillo, about a minute for you, Reverend Wilson.
We have to make sure that we're engaged in this midterm. This is not just some sideline election. It's the most important election of this decade, of this century. We have to vote, and we have to be clear that we're voting for the future, as you say, of human rights, the future of LGBTQ rights. Everybody has a reason to vote. We're talking about voting rights at stake. And so the criminal justice system, these are all state laws that are now being introduced so that people can have your own stand your ground law, your own citizens' rights, the vigilante laws that are across southern and midwestern states. We have the power to change this if we wake up and vote.
Absolutely. And you've got to pay attention to your local and state officials, everybody. They directly impact how you live. Robert Patillo, what about this Human Rights Campaign report that shows that 335 bills that would negatively impact the LGBTQ plus community, they're being considered by state lawmakers? And you just said something about Susan Sarandon, who I love personally and politically. But you're like, wait a minute. We don't see, and Black women have been mobilizing, to be fair, where you are across the South for years, because they have seen Roe v. Wade coming down the pike. Its extinction. They've been seeing it for years, but we don't see anybody in the off season. We don't. And then you see the LGBTQ plus community shouting at the Black community, "Why aren't you walking with me? You're homophobic." Then you have women saying, you all have some issues with us too. They're white women, that is. And I'm like, wait a minute, Robert, speak to that.
Well, this goes to the kind of top of the party, so to say, because we compare it to the Republican side of the aisle. Donald Trump creates a message. It doesn't matter if it's true, false. It doesn't matter if it even quite makes sense. And he tells the rest of the party, this is what you now believe in. You go through a period of consternation where people say, well, that's stupid, that's idiotic, nobody's going to do that. And then everybody falls in line, and that's what they believe in. And that's what they all get behind, regardless of what faction of the Republican Party you're in. So whether you're a Mitch McConnell from Kentucky, or if you're a Mitt Romney from Utah, you get online with whatever the party platform is right now. So whether it's critical race theory, they just make that a thing. Whether it is, Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck are going to make your kids gay. That's the new thing that they're on. Well, that's what we all believe in. And we're banning books. And they all get online with it. We're building a wall. Democrats don't have that kind of unified, defined figure at the top of the party who can bring all factions of the big tent together. So it's very much a squabbling. They come together to defeat Trump, but then afterwards, everybody turns into every man for himself. So each individual faction in the Democratic Party starts working against the other faction to see who can get to the front of the line first. The environmentalist people are saying we need the Green New Deal. The black folks are saying we need voting rights. The women are saying we need reproductive rights. The unions are saying we need union rights, and nobody can come together to actually just push an agenda going forward. I think this is a place where I would love to see somebody in the Democratic Party doing what President Trump does literally every week around the country, which is going state to state as a former president and campaigning not just for Senate candidates, campaigning for the Senate candidate, for the congressional candidate, for the gubernatorial candidate, all the way down to state representative and sometimes city council people. You'll see Trump endorsed around the country. He makes sure that he is going all the way down to the kind of the granular DNA of the party and getting everyone on one accord. The same way you're seeing President Trump do that right now, you could see former President Obama doing that right now. You can see some other figures in the Democratic Party doing that nationwide to try to bring the party together. But what you have right now is seemingly factions in a civil war to see who's going to get their finite resources or policies that can be done between now and the November election. Who can get what done, instead of simply saying we're going to do everything that the base says that we believe in with whatever power we have next, and we're going to submit it to the voters in October. So this comes down to the leadership of the party not stepping up and bringing folks together.
Well, you know, everyone's talking about voting. Just one moment. I have to do this real quick because I've got to type out, and I need to get to the chair of the Transformative Justice Coalition. And you will be back, Reverend Wilson. What about voting? Because we're still being purged. How can we be sure, Attorney Darrell Jones, that we are still on the voter rolls? How can we get registered to vote right now? What if you're a high school senior? What if you won't be 18 until November? What do you do? I've got a minute and a half.
Absolutely. Vote.org. Go to vote.org. Vote.org will give you your status with regards to whether or not you're registered to vote. If you will be 18 before the general election, you can register to vote. So if you're 17 and you'll be 18, you can register to vote. You should go through the steps of registering to vote. Wherever you are, whether you're in Illinois, if you're in whatever state you're in, you can go to your state board of elections, and they will give you the information electronically if you want to do it online, or you can go there physically to get information. But you got to get registered to vote. It's so incredibly important that you register to vote, and then that you take the next step and vote. That's the most important thing to do, Santita. And yes, we've got to reach out and be certain that every available voter is on board. We need all hands on deck for this midterm election.
Amen to that. I've got 30 seconds for you, Reverend Wilson. June 18th through the 22nd, we are going to be at the Rainbow Push Coalition, and we will be talking about this issue, voting, and so many others. 30 seconds.
June 18th to June 22nd in Chicago, we're going to open with a graduation celebration. Our young people have not been celebrated since COVID properly. We're going to showcase our graduates. We're going to showcase the auditoriums. We're going to showcase graduates from two-year universities with career options. We're going to make sure that every child is pushing for a high-quality education or movement into a career option. And I agree with Robert. All politics is local. We got to go state by state, city by city, county by county. We can turn this around. We have the power if we have the will to work.
Meet us at the convention June 18th through the 22nd so we can organize everybody. You know, don't organize in isolation. We should be talking with each other. We're going to be at the South Shore Cultural Center here in Chicago. It is beautiful. It's on the water. Lots of yard space, 9-hole golf course, all of that. It's going to be fantastic. Coming up, we're going to be talking with a woman who's an OBGYN. She has some real concerns. She's a Black doctor who's been practicing 25 years. She said, you know, there's a real buy-in for Black women in particular, and brown women, and poor white women on reproductive rights. Let's talk about it on the Santita Jackson Show. Back in a minute. Beautiful people, thank you so much.
Thank you, Santita.
Oh, you'll be hearing from me. You know that. Thank you, Reverend.
No question about it. Oh, I love being on with Robert, and good luck down there.
Oh man, they are the best. Robert,
They are.
okay. All right, you also. I am going to let me go on and move on to my next. Whew, yes. Okay, Reverend, I will speak with you.
Thank you.
Oh no, no, thank you. You were just moving around, moving today. Moving. There's so many issues I could have talked
Have a
about.
great day.
Oh, you too. Thank you. Okay, here we are. Oh, so you guys. Oh, hey Priscilla. Hey Jewel. Barbara out there in Oak Park. Oh, you know about the Oak Park Regional Housing Center? For people who really started having trouble holding on to their homes, if you fell behind on mortgage payments and things like that. I've got a live read for this, but I want you to know that there's some help. Go to illinoishousinghelp.org. illinoishousinghelp.org. You can get up to $30,000 to try and save your home. Not to try to save your home, specifically to do that. So please go to illinoishousinghelp.org or call them at 773-887-5187. 773-887-5187. I want you to save your homes. There's no reason for anyone to be homeless. No reason at all. Okay, so let's get right to this. Okay.
Okay, I have Dr. Holmes on the line.
Okay. Doctor?
Everyone else dropped. So,
Okay, no worries. No, that was the appropriate thing to do. Dr. Holmes?
Good morning, Santita. How
Good.
are you doing?
I am doing well. Now, are you Dr. Simmons Holmes or Dr. Holmes?
I am Dr. Holmes. My name is not hyphenated, but
Okay.
I do use my full name when introduced. But
Okay.
Simmons is my middle name.
I got you. I'm not mad at you. So, okay. So there.
Yes, the maiden name, I've never dropped my maiden name completely.
Look, I just want to know. I'm like, wait a minute, everybody, let me know. I just want to know. But I'm so glad that you're with us today. I'm so glad that you're with us, everyone.
Well, thank you so much.
I want to remind people, because we just came off of a segment where we were talking about Susan Collins, and she said, oh my goodness, these people lied to me. I don't think so. That having been said, you need to vote, and you need to vote locally. You can see that state legislatures have a lot of control over your reproductive rights and over your voting rights. In fact, at the presidential level, who becomes president is determined at the state level. The electors come from the state, not from Washington, D.C. But you need to find out if you're still registered, if you've been purged from the rolls. They have been purging millions of people from the voter rolls for years. So please go to vote.org. Vote.org. Thank you all for posting that. Vote.org. Call them and find out if you have been purged. You will be shocked. Shocked. Two people who were regulars on Reverend Jackson's show, Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson, we were talking about, voter purges, Dr. Holmes, so much. We were just talking about it. And Trevor and Jeremy, who's my technical producer, they just on a lark went on their phones to see if they'd been purged. Do you know that they had been? Now,
Yes.
Trevor's one of the top.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Trevor's one of the top political organizers in the state of Illinois. The reason we have automatic voter registration for 18-year-olds is because of his work. He was at the center of that. He just lost whatever color he had left. He said, you will never believe this. You know I've been purged? I said, okay. Jeremy said, hold up. They held up their phone. He held up his phone. He said, me too. He said, I can't believe this. I said, and it happens. You would have gone to the polls and they would have said you're not registered. Then they might have let you register and you would have needed a provisional ballot. Don't use provisional ballots, everybody. You stop until you get into a booth, because those provisional ballots they throw away. Yeah, I'm saying it because it's the truth. Okay, so I'm done. No, I'm not done. I'm not done. Oh. But it's important for us to know that. Vote.org. Vote.org. Oh, okay. All right, everybody. Here we go. Okay, and good morning, everybody. Like and share the show. We're so excited to welcome Dr. Janette Simmons Holmes to the show today. I've been, I'm glad you're here because I want you to come back to talk to us about some of our health concerns because we've got so many. In particular, black women. Thank you so much, Matt. It's always like the first option is to give us a hysterectomy if we have fibroids, right? And just
Absolutely. I'm happy to come back and talk about anything you need me to talk about.
oh, honey, I got a whole list. Don't worry. You're gonna say like your husband does, like, huh? He is wonderful. He's like, you need me back one more time? Yeah, all the time. Yes.
30 seconds.
all the time. Oh boy, but I got him through C.K. Hoffler, the former president of the immediate past president, and he has been a joy. He has been an absolute joy. But yeah, I said, no, of course I want you. I want you now. Yes. Send him a text.
10 seconds.
Okay, stand by.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Yes, let's change the world. Get registered to vote, everybody. That's how you can do that. Go to vote.org to find out if you have been purged from the voter rolls, and you need to do that regularly because they're doing it routinely. I'm Santita Jackson, coming to you from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Please meet my morning stars, the Santita Jackson morning stars. Hey, Priscilla. Hey, Joyce. Hey, L. Stanley Davis. Hallelujah. And Jewel up there in New York. Sending everybody so much love. Mark out in D.C. Please go to the Santita Jackson and Friends page. That's my official page. That's the only place where I can take friends, everybody. Please befriend me over there. And then watch the show on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Facebook reached out to us. They asked me to reach out to you to ask you to go over there and watch the show from the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Let's talk with a physician, an OBGYN, about the dangers of ending Roe v. Wade. She has got some stories. She's been in practice for 25 years. Cannot wait to speak with Dr. Janette Simmons Holmes. And of course, Dr. Max Wolf, who wants to weigh in on reproductive rights and inflation at the bottom of the hour. So let's get to it on Thursday, May 12th, 2022. It's going to be partly cloudy in Chicago today, but it's going to be positively beautiful. 83 degrees. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 90 degrees, everybody. Partly cloudy. The Dow closed down 326 points yesterday. The NASDAQ closed down 373 points. The S&P 500 closed down 65 points. In the NBA playoffs, oh, this is exciting, everybody. Milwaukee leads their series 3-2, and last night they won 110-103 over the Celtics. Golden State leads in their series 3-2. The Grizzlies, though, they had their way with the Warriors last night. Ouch, 134-95. I guess they said, we will not be eliminated. I'm not mad at you. Miami leads in their series 3-2, and the Heat will be playing the 76ers tonight in the NHL, the Stanley Cup. That's the World Championship, everybody. Well, Calgary leads their series 3-2. The Flames beat the Stars 3-1 yesterday. The Panthers beat the Capitals 5-3 in Pittsburgh. Well, they fell to the Rangers 5-3, everybody. Finland's president and prime minister have announced their support for joining NATO, moving the Nordic nation, which shares an 800-mile border with Russia, one step closer to membership of the U.S.-led military alliance. Since the end of the Second World War, Finland has been militarily non-aligned and neutral to avoid provoking Russia. No more, everybody. What do you think about that? Finland and Sweden is not too far behind them. Beyond shameful. Manchin joins the Senate GOP again to block abortion rights. We'll be talking about that in just a few minutes. What about the gas prices, everybody? Amid record pump prices, oil giants are enjoying sky-high profits. Sound suspicious to you? $41 billion in the first quarter. Ooh, you know we've got to talk about that. Well, Governor DeSantis in Florida just got to defeat a state judge that he appointed on Wednesday. Invalidated part of Florida's new congressional map, drawn by right-wing Governor Ron DeSantis' office and then approved last month by the Republican-controlled legislature, siding with plaintiffs who accuse the GOP of violating the state constitution through racial gerrymandering. Judge Lane Smith, appointed again by Governor DeSantis, and he's a Trump judge. Trump appointed. He said the enacted map is unconstitutional because it diminishes African Americans' ability to elect candidates of their choice. Wow, everybody. Think about that. And the Fed is going to make history. The first black woman will be named to join the Federal Reserve Board. She is Lisa Cook, one of the nation's preeminent economists and teaches at Michigan State University. Congratulations to her. Everybody, you know we've been talking about financial freedom and home ownership. Well, if you want to purchase a new home, if you want to refinance your existing home, if you want to secure a VA loan, a reverse mortgage, if you have bad credit, no credit, need to rebuild your credit, need to build your credit, high credit card debt, call Team Hochberg. You can get a free consultation with them at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID. When you get the free consultation, guess what will happen? Then they will come up with a plan that will get you out of debt. Sharon, 72, retired, living in a $300,000 home. People didn't think she had problems. Yes, she did. Her pension did not cover her bills like they don't for so many people. Social Security, none of that. And so she called an online lender. They could not help her, did not help her, but Team Hochberg did, reducing her monthly bills by $340, saving her more than $4,000 a year. And guess what? She's now staying in her home and free of debt. Call Team Hochberg at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, or go to 56david.com. 56david.com so that you can save your home or buy a home. Yeah, even in these times, you can do that. All right, everybody, let's talk about reproductive rights. There is so much to this. There's so much to this. Indeed, Dr. Janette Wilson has been practicing as an obstetrician gynecologist. She's on the administrative side now, but she practiced for a quarter of a century. And it's very interesting to hear from her because we're seeing that Black women do elect to terminate their pregnancies a great deal for a whole lot of reasons. Anyone who has to make this decision, they do not make it in some kind of casual way. It's a very, very painful decision. And women of color, it has been said, will be hit the hardest by the ending of Roe v. Wade, the overturning of it. Janet Yellen has said ending Roe v. Wade is going to hurt all women. Now, she's the Treasury Secretary. She said all women are going to really be hit hard. We're going to be hurt. So let's talk about this because there's a human side to this. There's a human side to this and there's a policy side. So we welcome to the show, and it will not be the last time that she is here, Dr. Janette Wilson, obstetrician, gynecologist. Dr. Holmes, it's wonderful to have you on the show.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Santita, for that wonderful introduction. I am so happy to be here this morning to discuss this subject. We're just not talking about it enough, so I'm so happy to be here.
Well, you know, you were very eager to speak about this. Why? What is missing in the discussion when you look at the news, when you go to the water cooler, you know, metaphorically speaking? What is missing from the discussion as you see it, as someone who has practiced medicine, as an obstetrician gynecologist for 25 years?
So what I see is that, yes, in the news you hear about the bans that are occurring across the United States to limit access to abortion But what is this really about? This is about taking the right away from women to decide whether to have children, to have how many children they want to have, how they want to space their children out. This is about losing control over our bodies. And so as a practicing OB-GYN, it's been very tough over the years. Legislators are making these decisions sitting behind a desk, but we physicians are in front of patients. They don't hear the stories that we hear. In my experience, just a few stories. A teenager at a party, she may have taken something or someone slipped something into her drink. She was sexually assaulted. Outcome, a pregnancy. A mother who brings in a 12-year-old molested by a family member. Outcome, she's pregnant. A single high-profile business executive who decides, look, I want to online date. I want to date some people. She goes out and she gets raped on her date. What are her options? Her outcome is a pregnancy. And then there are those instances when we're in a marriage, unfortunately, there are times when people aren't always in a positive marriage. And they may be raped in a marriage, and the outcome is a pregnancy. And then finally, what about that college student that I've seen that went to a party, maybe had too much to drink, or with her boyfriend who's a little bit more controlling than he should be and pressures her to have sex? The outcome is a pregnancy. So these are all real issues, real instances, real examples that occur, and that's what's really missing. In the media, they talk about it's about saving a life, but what about the people that are experiencing? I believe it's about choice, and we just want to preserve a woman's right to decide over her body.
Well, you know, we are missing these stories. I mean, because, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of them. What are the consequences when you take these options away from the 12-year-old, right? The business executive or the house cleaner or the person who's working at the hospital who just wanted to go out and have a nice time. I mean, what happens to these women? Janette Yellen, who's the Treasury Secretary, said, when you pull women out of the workforce, because that's why we've been hit by this recession, said when you pull women out of the workforce, it is deadly. And it impacts generations. Please speak to that, because you're giving us stories, Dr. Holmes. You know, you're like, no. This is not an academic discussion for me. These are people who came in and saw me. Dr. Holmes.
Real life discussions. Thank you, Santita. So when we create barriers to access, that does a variety of things. Let's just look at the first thing, highlighting the already existing healthcare disparities that are among low-income and communities of color. This was really exacerbated during the COVID-19 pandemic. And this will again be exacerbated and if Roe v. Wade is overturned. Secondly, there are so many laws, so many states now that have implemented these trigger ban laws. And pretty much every state is different, but some of them have some criteria or barriers attached to them, such as multiple visits. The woman has to have so many visits before she is considered eligible to even discuss, can you even have an abortion? Or is there a waiting period? In some states, there are waiting periods. So when you implement barriers such as these, the pregnancy continues, and then that places the female at higher risk of having more complications. And so I did speak a few minutes ago to the trigger ban laws. These laws are implemented in about 13 states so far, and what this means is that the topic on the table, which is Roe versus Wade, if overturned, these laws will automatically ban abortions in the first and second trimester. What does that mean? The first trimester is up to 3 months. The second trimester is up to 5 to 6 months. So that means you're going to have women getting or traveling or trying to get an abortion that's later than 6 months. That puts them at grave and serious risk of complications, and especially higher risk of maternal death. Excuse me. And finally, when minorities or low-income communities are faced with restrictions on access, then these communities, especially Black women in these communities, are faced with a higher mortality of death, meaning they're going to face higher risk of dying from complications, and if they're forced to take these pregnancies to full term, they have a higher complication of death just to have a baby. So the Black female with maternal death risk is 3 times higher than that of a white female.
Well, wait. First of all, why is that? It seems that having a baby for a Black woman in particular, and for Indigenous women, because their outcomes are worse than ours. Why is this a deadly proposition, if you will, giving life? What's going on here?
The studies have shown that, it's a variety of factors. And in general, Black females are at higher risk of developing the maternal complications, things such as diabetes, high blood pressure, preeclampsia, pulmonary complications. Women in general are at higher risk of getting blood clots. The data shows that Black women are at higher risk of developing those also. So the data has proven that the healthcare disparities or the health disparities that are generally exist for communities of color are there also when you're having a baby. They're just higher compared to other nationalities that are having a baby. So it is very disturbing.
Oh, wow. Everybody, we're talking with Dr. Janette Simmons-Holmes, OBGYN, everybody, obstetrician gynecologist for 25 years. She reached out to the show. She said, look, there's some pieces that we're really missing in this discussion. And maternal mortality in the Black community is the highest in the United States of America. Now, we're also, maternal mortality generally is the highest in the Western world. I mean, for white, Black, brown, yellow, and red women, for everybody. So that means Black women are at the top of the food chain or at the bottom, depending upon how you look at it. So anytime you have a vulnerable community, everybody, you do know that means you're vulnerable too. It's just going to hit you eventually. That's what's going to happen. All women are vulnerable. And all women, and these are girls that you've been talking about, Dr. Holmes, girls who've come to you with these horrific stories. What's going to happen now? Is the medical, because I understand that 54% of pregnancy terminations now are medically induced. You take a pill or a series of pills. Is that safe for young girls? I mean, what will increase their safety and what will prevent them from not being able to have children later on, should they choose?
So it's my understanding that all abortions are banned. I live in the state of Texas, so that does include medical abortions also. And I will just put that disclaimer on that because I haven't actually studied in detail the law. But in general, the African Americans and communities of color, low-income communities are going to be impacted with mental health issues. That's one of the issues that we're dealing with. Evidence shows, data is proven that women that are denied access to get an abortion have more depression, they have more anxiety. And additionally, medical decisions are very personal. Typically these happen between doctors and patients. And when we as physicians aren't able to uphold our code of ethics and provide the best care possible and give the best care possible, doctors are going to juggling ethical standards versus am I going to be penalized in some sort of way legally if I do what I think is best for my patient. So we're going to see that also. And then, of course, we're going to see a lot of women just carrying these pregnancies to full term because they're not able or they don't have the financial means to travel and have an abortion. And that's really going to be very, very, even more heartbreaking, but that opens up a whole nother can of worms. So overall, I say that this overturning Roe versus Wade is just a bad decision for all women. Healthcare is a human right, and in general, no one should be left behind.
Whew. Dr. Janette Simmons-Holmes, you have a couple minutes before we go, because you're putting a face on it. You know, when we look at the news, we hear about abortion, reproductive rights, but we don't see the faces. We don't hear the stories. You know, I mean, and even in the context of marriage, what did you say? Sometimes, you know, people are not in a healthy place in their marriage. I mean, it's just a whole lot. There are so many factors. My father always said that there's a whole lot, baby, that you just don't know. And I guess he knows that as a minister because people come and confide so many things in him. What do you want us to know in this moment, Dr. Holmes? And I'm looking forward to having you back really in a matter of days. It might even be tomorrow. I don't know. Because, you know, there's so many questions that we have about our health now. I think that being locked away for 2 years has prompted a lot of questioning about, you know, about the state of our health. What should we know about the importance of Roe v. Wade?
So I would, you know, investigate what is your state doing at this time about this issue. Is your state one of those that has these trigger ban laws in place that will automatically occur once Roe v. Wade is overturned? So reach out to your legislators, find out, educate yourself. This is very important for you to know what your rights are if Roe v. Wade is overturned. As I stated, healthcare is a human right. No one should be left behind. Every woman should have and continue to have the right to make their own decisions, their own choices over their bodies.
Well, you know, I'm looking forward to having you come back because, you know, I think we need to discuss, you know, the fact that men and women are different. You know, our reproductive health is tied to our overall health. If you are in the period of life where you have a menstrual cycle, if your menstrual cycle, if you have an interruption in it, you know you have a problem, something that needs to be looked into. We are not the same. We are not the same. So we need to think about this, and we're going to have you come back, Dr. Janette Simmons-Holmes. You know, this is Attorney Shannon Holmes' wife. Great couple. And I'm going to probably have him tomorrow because we've been talking about him so much. But I really want you to come back and talk to us about our health, you know, about these options. And really, you know, I mean, because what do people do as these trigger laws? I mean, you're in Texas. It is very difficult. It's becoming increasingly difficult for people to access reproductive care. Increasingly difficult. People are having to drive with the highest gas prices that we've seen in a generation or two. They're having to drive across state lines, across many state lines. They can't afford to do this. People are broke. Oh, Dr. Janette Simmons-Holmes, obstetrician gynecologist. I can't wait to have you back. Keep that phone on, girl. Blessings to you. You are a jewel. Got Dr. Max Wolf coming up. He wants to talk about reproductive rights too and inflation. Stay right here on the Santita Jackson Show. God bless. Dr. Simmons? Dr. Holmes. Lord, look at what I did. No, you know what?
You wanted me to cover.
Oh no, you did, but there's so much to cover. I need you to come back because I mean, there's a step beyond after you find out that you're pregnant. Now, what do you do? Because more and more states have already made it harder for people to access that kind of care. So in the next couple of days, I need to have you back because there's another step, you know.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I will find out, like for instance, for Illinois and for Texas, I'll do some research to find out what those laws are in your state too, so I can at least in Minnesota to inform your listeners, because I have not done that actual research on the state.
Well, you know, to be fair to you, it's changing all the time. I mean, Illinois is a state where you can come and get some assistance.
Mrs. Wells ready.
Okay.
Working on getting Dr. Wolf up.
Thank you. Illinois today, you can get some relief that, you know, and more than likely that will hold, but it doesn't have to.
I hope so.
You know, I mean,
sure hope so.
I hope so, but that's why I'm saying to you, I can't even look into that. But also Minnesota, that's where we are as well, and Wisconsin.
Yes, all that. I'm happy I'm back next week, so just reach out to me. Let me know.
Oh, honey, it might be sooner than that, because you know my question is, you know, you find out you're pregnant, now what? You know, now what?
Right.
What, you know, what are the next steps? I mean, is there anyone that you should be able to talk to? There's a lot. Because they are. I mean, come on. The governor of Mississippi and a couple of others want to ban access to an IUD. Who does that?
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Oh
That's crazy.
my gosh. I mean, I know you've got to be looking at these people going, and you've got to say,
Oh, yeah.
are you serious right now? It's awful.
It's really hard to believe. It's hard to believe.
Well, you know, it's our generation's fight. So I think this is a good thing, and I'm so glad that you're part of the family now. Ooh. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Well, have a great rest of your day.
You too. God bless you. Please give my best regards to Attorney Holmes.
Will do.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, Dr. Wolf is also ready.
Okay, Dr. Wolf, how are you?
Good morning.
Good morning. I have a couple of live reads, and after that, boom. We'll come right to you. Boom, diddy, boom, de, boom, boom, boom. Hey, everybody. All right, all right. Whew. Okay. Chaparro, you're there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm here.
All right, fantastic.
1 minute.
Okay. All right. Okay. Oh, goodness gracious.
30 seconds.
Okay.
Get back in time.
Thank you, Matt. Everybody, send Matt some love today. He did such a great job. Matt, everybody.
Change the world, change the world, change the world. Yes, we can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Oh, and hate, no hate the world, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am breathing.
Want to hear from you as we talk about, our reproductive rights. What about inflation, too? I mean, it is really impacting us in tremendous ways. Airline fares are up 38%. What about the gas prices? And what about reproductive rights? This fight in the midst of all of that, it seems like everything is on the table. Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. Everybody, you know what? I have some great news for you. Some great news for you. And save your home, everybody. The Oak Park Regional Housing Center wants to hear from you. Did you know that the Illinois Homeowner Assistance Fund is offering up to $30,000? Yes, you heard me. $30,000 of free money to pay your past due mortgage, property tax payments, or other housing costs. That's right, $30,000 free money to pay your past due mortgage, property tax payments, or other housing costs. So if you're behind on your mortgage payments or your property tax payments or other housing costs due to COVID-19, go to IllinoisHousingHelp.org, IllinoisHousingHelp.org to find out if you are eligible, or call them at their office at 773-887-5187, 773-887-5187. Again, 773-887-5187. The program ends on May 31st, so you got to hurry. But please go to IllinoisHousingHelp.org, IllinoisHousingHelp.org, or call the office at 773-887-5187. Save your homes. You don't need to lose it because you have not been able to pay your mortgage, meet your tax payments, or other housing costs due to COVID-19. Call them and save your home today. We've got a Chaparral celebrations by us. I don't know. I think I want some meatballs. I know I want you to make me something. That's all I know. But I know you're doing much more than that during the prom season and the wedding season. Hey.
Yes, Santita, we are gearing up for prom, graduation, and wedding season. This weekend we have our first wedding of the season, and we are in high gear right now. So, yes, please give us a call at 708-526-4546, 708-526-4546. We are handling all of your balloon arches, your custom suite tables, as well as also your custom name tables, and your dessert platters, as well as also your hors d'oeuvre platters. We do complete meals as well. We still have our ribs, we still have our meatballs, we still have our fried chicken, and our greens and mac and cheese. So don't hesitate to give us a call. We're taking orders year round. So call us at 708-526-4546, 708-526-4546. We look forward to serving you. Thank you so much, Santita.
Oh, bless your heart. Bless your heart. Well, you know what time it is. We've got Dr. Max Wolf. He wants to talk to us today. We've got inflation and reproductive rights. They're really at the top of, that's what people are saying they really, really want to talk about. And even as we're talking about reproductive rights, inflation, according to the latest polls, is the issue that has really got the attention of Americans. They're saying, I cannot afford to pay for gas. I cannot find the baby formula, and if I find it, I might not be able to afford it. Um, Everything is just, where do you want to begin? Because it's so overwhelming. It's so overwhelming, Dr. Wolf.
It is. I mean, I do think the inflation issue is bent, very heavily bent, because it's become a sort of electoral strategy for removing the Democratic control of Congress. And I think there's a good chance it'll be successful. But I think the problem with it is that cheap food, particularly, very expensive food by global standards, if you don't quality adjust it, and very cheap gas by global standards, if you don't adjust it, were what Americans got because our wages stink. And so what happened when the food and the gas got less cheap because of international events that have nothing to do with policy decisions much made by this administration, there was an opening. And the opening is to create an even worse condition for the majority of Americans who will be even poorer in the future, but will hope to get really cheap, low-grade food and gas. Right? And so I think there's a bit of a problem here with the discussion. That being said, food prices are up globally. You're starting to see the first, what looks like maybe food price partially driven overthrow of a government in Sri Lanka, and there's agitation in that direction in other places. And that has to do with many things. It has to do with a bird flu outbreak that's caused us to cull about 40 million chickens in the U.S., which puts chicken prices up quite a bit because of bird flu outbreaks. And that has to do with the kind of factory farming we have and some bad luck, quite frankly, there. The feed for animals shot up. The slaughterhouse worker kind of community got brutalized by bad conditions and inadequate PPE. So it sort of threw a wrench in the works in the meat processing industry, which also underwent convulsions as people's diets changed, and the restaurant industry got kind of wiped out and came back online. So it's just been a very difficult time. I don't think this will last, but I do think it's quite painful. And I think a lot of people are facing that if you're living nearly hand-to-mouth or hand-to-mouth, as so many of us are, and if your salaries don't pay for your life, then the easy way to talk about it is to say we need cheap potatoes and beef, which has been the way we tried to fix the problem. I think American working people need to earn more money. That's a more difficult social conversation. But high food prices are a big pain right now, and if you can't fill your stomach and you can't fill your gas tank, big considerations and philosophies are probably not interesting, right? The problem is, if everything to you was about those tax cuts to fill your gas tank and that cheap food to fill your stomach, that is how you got here after 40 years. That's how you got to be the general public here who makes about as much money as the top 20%, the other 80% together, putting you in very perilous position in need of really inexpensive food and gas, right? So that the precariousness that created this situation is the bigger issue, but you have to survive today to worry about tomorrow, right? And so I think we could look at being more aggressive in trying to give aid and benefit. And to me, I would say the last thing to pay attention to is the people screaming loudest about inflation right now are also cutting the programs that people turn to for food and assistance and public transit. And if you care about people's ability to move around, and if you care about people's ability to eat, then safety net programs should be the first thing you increase and the last thing you decrease.
You know, we're talking with Dr. Max Wolf about inflation and reproductive rights. Well, is there some intersection here? Because in fact, Janet Yellen said, look, if Roe v. Wade is overturned, this is going to be disastrous for women. This will be disastrous.
We've already seen this, so we don't even need to conjecture. We've seen a steady rollback of reproductive rights for women for a long time, because what you see in that Supreme Court decision is a culmination of 30 or 40 years of heavy grassroots organizing around a very intense opinion, which has at no point been the opinion of the majority of Americans. There has been 0 points in which this is an opinion of the majority of people, right? So this is a minority movement that has used this very smartly from grassroots to state level and to push an agenda, like in so many areas, which is against the interest and benefit of the country and against the majority opinion of the people of the country. And in the age of social media, that can be pushed even more aggressively to people, all of whom are sure that whatever they think, everyone thinks, because that is the age of social media, the age of false equivalence, and that whatever I believe secretly everyone believes, because everybody on my Facebook feed agrees. Right? Now, understand the Facebook feed is created to find anyone who agrees with you to keep you on Facebook, right? But I do think first of all, having a child is a massive economic decision. It's one of the most profound and transformative economic decisions women have. Having a kid correlates with being poorer the rest of your life if you're a woman, in a way that it doesn't if you're a man, because the economic responsibilities of having a kid in America fall disproportionately on women. Guys talk about it, the culture talks about it, and many guys spend a lot of their money caring for their women and children and deserve tons of credit for it. But if we're honest here, a lot of guys don't, right? There are a lot of what you might call boyfriend/sperm donors out there. They may be talking a good rap, but they're not really paying for anything, which means that the convulsive and massive care costs of a child, which, you know, we know now are much longer than 18 years. Kids on their own in 18 years is a middle-class story about a bygone era of economic security. So we know that even kids in their teens and 20s, almost half of them now live at home with their parents. Highest than at any point we've kept records in 75 years. So it's a 20, 30, 40-year, economic decision, among others. And having a child and being a mom, we don't support that with any benefits or social programs like every other developed country. So it also tends to hit women hard in terms of time lost, seniority lost, and then the child care duties tend to fall disproportionately on women, which we saw with 5 million women exiting the workforce because the schools and daycares and child care programs so many folks had relied on for their kids were disrupted reasonably to protect people during COVID. So there's an economic facet to the reproductive decision. And the other area we might flag is that the discussion about abortion has nothing to do with the rules we make around abortion. And the discussion we have about inflation has nothing to do with the rules we make around inflation. The rules we make around abortion are to restrict women's reproductive rights and get some people excited about rolling back social changes that they don't like that occurred in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Full stop, the end. It's very obvious. Now, that who believe in this or that think they're doing, but that's what the laws are doing, right? When we talk about inflation, what we're mostly talking about is, right now, trying to blame Joe Biden, who's made his fair share of mistakes, but this is not the area where those have occurred, trying to blame him for the fact that Americans can't afford to fill their stomachs and their gas tanks, and trying to not discuss 45 years of wage stagnation and the fact that a society that doesn't help people raise kids much at all shouldn't probably be in the business of telling who can have a kid when.
We're talking with Dr. Max Wolf about inflation and reproductive rights. There is a convergence here. And we need to talk about this because so much of this is coming from the same place. I mean, we're looking at Reaganism, if you will, Dr. Wolf, writ large. We're still living with it. I mean, this is a president who broke one of the largest unions in America. He fired every air traffic controller in the United States. That was a tremendous blow to, absolutely, the PATCO strike. Absolutely.
I know the story.
Well, you know what? And it just kept on going from there. But now, I mean, but what we have to really look at is just this,
Or you're not going to win. I think the Cornell meat strike was the other big one, right?
That's right. I mean, we just keep on going with it, Dr. Wolf. I mean, and the fact is, as you just said, all of these rollbacks on our rights, the stagnation of our wages, they're coming from the same place. I mean, how can you not have wages move? Well, please talk about that, because I don't understand how wages don't move in 2 generations, in 40 years, 40 plus. How do we get here? I mean, and we're seeing CEO compensation go through the roof. Through the roof. I mean, what's going on? What's driving this?
Well, there's lots of ways to measure an economy, right? Not to be too professorial for a minute, but maybe to set the table here. So you can measure an economy, as we often do, which makes a lot of sense, in terms of how much wealth that economy produces. Things like GDP or gross domestic product, they give us an idea, if you will, if we're producing a bigger pie. Then there's a measurement of an economy that says who gets how much in the way of the size of the slice of that pie. That we tend to talk about less because it makes people uncomfortable, right? But we make radical policies that shift the size of those portions. The portion that goes to capital, money and wealth, and the portion that goes to labor has consistently grown for capital and shrunk for labor, really for 40, 50 years now. And that has a lot more to do with why people can't pay for gas and food than an 8% year-over-year increase in the price of meat or 30% price of fuel, right? Also, the price increases are very concentrated in sort of transit-related fuel, oil, cars, and food. Those big expenses, but they're kind of highly concentrated there. Over time, when prices of things move unequally, it redistributes wealth. So if wages go up more than what you have to buy, workers get richer, and probably profits shrink. If wages don't go up, or don't go up as much as what you buy, story right now, then the average person is getting poorer. So what gets people upset when they go to the store or when they see gas prices, very rightly and reasonably, is they're poorer. There's just 2 ways to get poorer. You can have less money, or you can have the same amount of money that buys you less. 2 sides of the same coin. So when people are upset about inflation, as they should be, and it's shocking, and the numbers have been dramatic, although a little bit less bad in April than March, but not much, then what they're really upset about is what they can afford, right? Because if I make $500,000 a year and my grocery bill goes from $1,200 a month to $1,500 a month, it's coffee talk, right? It's annoying, and I'm sure I want to do something else with that money or whatever, but like, I'm not going to sleep different. I'm not going to sweat my utility bill. I'm not going to be up all night wondering how I tell people that things I told them I could do, I can't do. Right? I make $70,000 a year for my household than it is. Right? So how much money you have is half the story with how much things cost. And we tend to only want to tell half that story. Just like people don't like the idea of terminated pregnancies, and that's true of the people who are making the difficult decision to terminate a pregnancy, as well as the people who are judging them without knowing their circumstance en masse from far away, often without the same equipment physically, so it's hard to imagine. Right? I think I'm male, so I don't exempt myself from this, but I don't really know what it's like to be a woman, or to be sexually assaulted, or to be pregnant, or to make that decision. And it may be my feeble intellect, but it might just be that that's not something you can really kind of totally understand if you're not a woman. Right? And I have spent zero time as a woman, and that's probably what's on the horizon for me. So I don't feel like I have deep insight there, right? But I certainly don't feel like my esteemed colleagues who think they do know what it's like to be pregnant, who are also men, have any more insight than me. I think they might just have more hubris. I think we need to do what people have done historically in moments of difficulty like this, which is we probably need to raise our subsidies and commitment to public transit, although that will take a while. We need to look at trying to make accommodation for people, because a lot of Americans have lives very reasonably set up around long commutes, which actually has a lot to do with housing costs and job availability, and long commutes with sizable motor vehicles spells pain at the gas pump. Right? And I also think subsidizing some basic foods might make sense as a temporary measure that we could probably withdraw pretty quickly.
Well, I want to know, I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
And last but not least, we have to talk again that a lot of the price increases you're seeing in energy and food are because speculators have bid up these prices to make money, because the demand is not actually up that much in a lot of places. Airfares are a little bit of an exception. So in airfare, we did see a surge in demand. But even when we do see surges in demand or increase in demand for food or fuel or airline tickets, often the case, the suppliers don't increase the supply because they don't know how long it'll last. They just increase the price. And that's about the profit margin and taking risk for the future.
Well, it has been speculated. It has been speculated that this is really the corporation's plan all along, as they're getting massive corporate subsidies. They're the only ones who really profited from this pandemic. They're the ones who made the money, and they're the ones who are continuing to make the money. And if you look at the news, Dr. Wolf, you would think that inflation is being driven by consumers. And Bernie Sanders is saying, no. Corporate greed is driving this. So much of the data they're showing, these people are making money hand over fist, and I'm not making any money. My wages aren't moving. What are people supposed to do? Number one, are consumers driving inflation?
I don't believe this has been a consumer-driven inflation story. There have been episodes in American history where wages or consumer demand pushes up prices, maybe for some kinds of housing. The housing price increases we've seen, there was a kind of a bigger move for people moving to new places or larger houses further out from center cities because of some taste changing around COVID. That was probably consumer-driven. But the gas is really about gas, oil, and transit fuels, which is the big one. And the cars and the food, that's really about supply chain disruptions. And there's a big premium in food prices right now for the trade war that we have sort of simmering and was really intense under the last president of China. And there's also heavy impact from climate change, which is disrupting staple grains, right? And what I think people don't even realize is you just disrupt the staple grain production, a la Ukraine and Russia being massive wheat producers and et cetera, and Brazil having shortages with bad crops and climate change, and that also being an issue in the U.S. and Australia. When you disrupt the price of staple grains, you automatically jack up the price of meat, because when you buy a pound of beef, you're probably buying 50 pounds of feed grain. And so Typically, the way you make chicken or beef or those things is you feed them grains, and so if those grains shoot up in price, then the animal that lives off of eating copious amounts of that grain automatically also, the old joke for traders in chicken is if you trade chicken, you're basically, they call it corn without feathers, because it moves in lockstep with the price of corn because you feed chicken, or you can feed some chicken corn. Anyway, the point being that all interrelated. That's the other big lesson here.
Yeah.
Interdependence. Now, I don't care about them, just worry about me, always leaves you screwed, right? It's the sort of Cardinal Nyman story always with that.
Two-thirds of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. It's getting more and more difficult for us. I got a couple of minutes before we have to go. What should we do? What do we need to know in this moment, Dr. Wolf?
I think a lot of things are in flux. I also think that capital and labor are involved in a little bit of a face-off in the U.S. about how we go back to work, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that that's been underappreciated. So exactly how we all return to work is a big question mark of a question right now. And there's a desire to get people back into the office doing what they did before, commuting there, and they don't want to, and commuting is expensive, and so there's a standoff there. There's a lot of quitting and a lot of tumult and switching into jobs. The global supply chains and global capital labor relations were disrupted by the lockdowns and the fears and just a changed worldview from being locked in some place or another for part of 2 years. And so I think we're sort of renegotiating that. And then we have a massive war in the heart of Europe, the largest military confrontation in Europe since the Second World War, between the two of the largest producers and exporters of wheat and one of the largest oil exporters in the world. And so I think where China falls on this isn't 100% clear. And so the global powers are going at it. Capital and labor are going at it. The pandemic isn't quite over. We haven't even begun to assess the damage. And a lot of people are fed up and unwilling to go back to what they used to do at the same time as the people who ran the world before are trying to push everyone back into that mold. And I think that's a recipe for a combustible series of years. And one way that, volatility shows up is in prices. And right now it is in food and fuel, and that's making a difficult situation impossible for a lot of hardworking people, no real fault of their own.
Dr. Max Wolf, everybody, every Thursday on the Santita Jackson Show. And I've got to have you back in the next couple of days, even before your Thursday segment, because to hear that two-thirds of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, I mean, how will we make it? I mean, 1 in 5 early childhood educators. Oh my gosh. I mean, the childhood educators in the state of Illinois, 1 in 5 are in poverty. I mean, we're not okay. We're not okay. I've got like 20 seconds. They belong to you.
Well, I think the big lesson of all this is what you don't care about when it happens to someone else always blows back on you. And the opportunity of a moment of crisis, and it is painful to go through a crisis, is to go toward a world better than the one you had before the crisis. And if you don't do that, you end up scarred and worse for the wear. The American working public has been rode hard and put away well. So I think they're not going to go back to the old situation, and people are fighting to figure out what the new situation will look like.
Well, we will see. We will see. I tell you what you better do. What you better do is vote. Go to vote.org, vote.org. Make sure that you are still registered. If not, you can get re-registered to vote. Make sure your high school senior is voting. The people you love who are young people, whether they're in college or not, make sure that they are registered to vote. Talk to them about that. And I hope that you'll join us at the Rainbow Push International Conference, June 18th through the 22nd, June 18th through the 22nd. It's going to be a great conference, and it's for you. Go to rainbowpush.org and get registered. I can't wait to be with you tomorrow on the Santita Jackson Show. I love you, everybody. God bless. And I love you, Dr. Wolf. God bless you, everybody. Have a great one. All righty. Dr. Wolf?
Yes.
I am going to run into a Zoom call. I am so tired of this right into here. Let me tell you. May I call you back?
Absolutely. Good luck with your call.
Oh, gosh, thank you. Okay. All right, hon. Bye-bye. Love y'all.
Take care.
Bye-bye.